What's up, creatrixes and creators? I'm Wicked. I'm giving power back to the people, and you can't stop me. Today we're going to discuss spellcasting and creation, but before we begin, go ahead and give this video a big thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and click that little bell so that I can help you keep your third eye in the sky and take back control of your life so you can start living your favorite experience. Spellcasting and creation. Witchcraft is primarily DIY, so the spells that you create yourself are going to be some of the most powerful ones out there for your practice. Now, of course, while you're getting the hang of making things rhyme and writing them out and learning what to add to the spells to really amp them up, it's totally fine to use spells that you find in a book, on a website, or on Pinterest if that's your path. But just know that the spells you create yourself are going to be some of the most powerful ones for your practice. Another important thing to know is that spells don't actually have to rhyme, but rhyming creates a really powerful word flow that's going to make it a lot easier for you to get into rhythm with and really vibrate with. Music is energy. It's all vibrational frequencies, so getting a good rhyme down is going to help you boost your own power and the power in the space around you, which is going to heighten the power of your intention. One of the best things you can do with any spell you cast is to really use your voice. Sure, sometimes we need to whisper, but even a whisper is better than just reading in your head, so make sure you speak out into the universe so that Source can hear you and heed your request. Speaking aloud really commands attention. So the louder you speak and with the more conviction, the more power you are putting into your spell casting. It's also good to know that you don't have to use old-timey words. You can use slang if it applies, especially if it helps you rhyme. Whatever really relates to your life and gets that flow down is going to be the most powerful. Again, witchcraft is DIY, so as much of yourself as you can put into a spell, the better. The more powerful it's going to be, the more potent the energy, and the better chance you're going to have of your intention coming to fruition. If you're casting for something big, something that feels out of reach, speaking in a different language can make a huge difference because it gives your ego less chance to really combat what you're saying. The dead language is incredibly powerful. Latin commands a lot of attention. And you're probably thinking, I don't speak Latin. Nobody does. Google does. Google Translate may not always be 100% on point, but as long as your intention is really powerful and true, it's going to get through. And it can be fun to play with a different language. It also helps you kind of lighten up, and like I said, your ego can't combat it if it doesn't understand what you're saying. This gives you a better chance of penetrating the subconscious. Remember, the universe doesn't speak in words, it speaks in energy. So if you can hold the vibration of that which you're trying to manifest and speak out in Latin, your conscious mind can't really get in your way. Don't take words for granted. They are probably the most powerful part of a spell. Using words alone can definitely be enough, but if you want to add more power to your spell, looking into different correspondences is going to help you do that. You can add anything from herbs and crystals to correlating with the day of the week or the phase of the moon to add that extra power. Witches are famous for working with the moon, and each cycle of the moon has different meanings, different energy, and therefore can help you get different intents across. We will come to dive deeper into moon magic, but in the meantime, just know that the waxing moon is good for bringing things in, the full moon is good for manifesting the heart's desires, and the waning moon is good for sending things out. You can use any or all of these different correspondences to add extra power to your spell. It can also be very helpful to create a sachet full of herbs and tiny crystals, or just carry a certain type of crystal with you to keep your intention alive as you're waiting for your spell to manifest. But after you've cast a spell, do your best to just be done with it. Give it over to the universe, move on with your life, and let it come in naturally. If you don't, you risk putting up a bunch of resistance and therefore keeping the spell out. So if you're constantly focused on your spell, you're going to keep it just out of arm's reach. The best way to help a spell manifest quickly is to stay in alignment with it, so keeping your vibrational frequency the same as whatever it is that you're casting for. This is why carrying a crystal or a statue can be really helpful, because it helps keep that energy with you as you go about your day-to-day life. Now, there are lots of different ways to add these things in and to cast a spell, but one of the most important things you can do is to cast a circle before you cast your spell and to undo the circle once you're finished. This helps you to create a magical, sacred space, as well as adding some personal protection from any external negative forces that might be trying to interfere. Casting a circle is very simple. There's no need for me to do a whole video on this. You can use a ceremonial tool like an athame, which is a dagger or a small knife. You can use a wand, or you can simply just use your pointer finger, witches are also infamous for casting with this finger, and there is a reason for that. It is a direct line of power from you out into the world. So when you're casting, if you don't have a tool or just simply don't want to use one, using your finger is perfectly sufficient. When casting your circle, it's important that you do so in the right directions. We have been trained to do everything clockwise because it just seems to make sense. But when it comes to magic, the clockwise motion is actually a banishing motion. Counterclockwise is how we bring things in. So when you are casting your circle, you want to cast in a counterclockwise direction around you until it comes to a close. When you are dissolving your circle, you want to go in a clockwise direction, bringing it fully open. Once you've cast your circle, you may want to invite in certain spirit guides, ancestors, or deities to stand with you in the spell. Some witches also really like to call in the different directions. Any of these things, all of these things is fine, whatever you need to do for your intent at hand. Just know that the more power you bring in, the more power you have to work with. When we are casting, we are a conduit for the universe. We are inviting source, spirit, God, whatever you adhere to, in to work with us. So the more power you have, the more witnesses, the more helpers, the better. Spellcasting is an art form, and as with any art, every artist is going to have their own style and their own mediums to work with. So while it can be helpful to look to outside sources to get some inspiration, when it comes down to it, you have to do what feels best for you and your practice. Staying true to yourself is the best way to really get your power flowing. It also doesn't hurt to sage or otherwise cleanse yourself and your space. It's really good to take some sort of ritual bath before a spell, and if you feel the need to, depending on what it is that you're casting for, to cleanse yourself afterwards as well. Now, some might think you would only need to do this if you're doing something negative or bad, but the truth is, sometimes it's good to just wash that energy away so that you can release your own resistance and, like I said, kind of just leave the spell to the universe. Get it off of you, get clean of it, and go on about your life. A lot of books are going to tell you that different times of days are for specific kinds of spells, and the truth is you can cast a spell at any time of day, but just like with the different phases of the moon or the different days of the week, you will find that certain times of day can add more potency to your spells. I can't really get into the specifics of which times of day are best for what, because that's not something I really adhere to in my practice. A lot of what I do is done at night because I'm rather nocturnal, and that seems to work for me. But I do know that dawn is a great time to cast for new things, of course, because it's a new day, new energy, right? And the nighttime is generally considered to be best for casting spells that you wish to keep secret, but I've found that nighttime working with the moon, it just works out better for me because the moon is present and easier to draw power from. You can also draw down the moon when you're practicing, and there are lots of different spells out there for doing this specific part of a ritual, but also just being present with the moon, taking that energy in, that's going to help you as well. When you're casting spells, another way that you can make them more powerful is to activate your kundalini, your life force energy. The kundalini is known as the soul serpent that runs up and down the spine through the chakras. It runs through all of your chakras, and then it connects with source or the divine or God and brings that power back down to you. But it's important to remember to ground yourself first. A simple way to do this is to get good and comfortable. It helps to stand so that your feet are making contact with the ground, and then visualize drawing energy up from the earth through your body, connecting with the divine. Usually people see this as a white light, and bringing that back down so that they meet together in your heart center, fully empowering you. Doing this is going to give you a really high vibrational state, especially in the physical, that is going to make your magic that much more powerful. It's also really good to meditate beforehand so that you can get yourself into the right vibrational state. Remember, manifesting is all about matching the energy of that which you are trying to create in your life. So taking a few minutes to find that vibration and to just really let the energy flow through you is going to help you supercharge your spell. And I know we talked about saging or cleansing your space, but it's also a good idea to sage and cleanse all of your instruments and tools that you plan on using in the spell, especially any ingredients, because you want them to be at their most pure form and their most pure energetic state when you bring them into work with you and with all of the other components. Another thing you can do in preparation for a spell is to pull a tarot card beforehand, or a series of cards in a spread. This can give you some insight into the spell being cast. It might even help you figure out how to cast the spell, but an important thing to do is to avoid pulling cards for the spell afterwards, because again, it keeps your conscious mind focused on the spell, which brings in all of this resistance and keeps the results of the spell out of your experience. But I know there are a lot of witches who often, if they're unsure whether or not to cast a spell, they'll pull a tarot card to kind of help them figure out if it is the right path for them. You can do this with runes and a scrying board, or you can ask your spirit guides as well. But again, the most important thing to do is to trust yourself with this, because you know best what you need for your life. As I talked about in my video, Protecting Oneself in the Magical Realm, a lot of people will dabble in the craft. Some will even call themselves witches for years before they cast a spell because they are afraid of the repercussions. An important thing to understand is that the energy you put out into the universe is what you are going to get back. However, if you are trying to banish someone who has been a real problem in your life, or you're trying to bind another person, you're not necessarily going to get that back because you don't have nefarious intentions in doing so. You are trying to protect yourself and to protect your energy, and the universe is going to recognize that. That is a different vibration than actually trying to do harm to someone. And usually when we banish or bind, it is because someone is harming us. They have different intentions. Fearing bounce back so much to the point that it keeps you from actually practicing is a bigger problem than what a lot of other people are doing to you, and it's oftentimes a bigger issue than the energy you're going to get back. Try not to be afraid of your power. The universe isn't going to make something happen if it's truly out of alignment and out of sync with the universe itself. Recognize that while you are incredibly powerful, your power is not absolute, not as absolute as the universe's is. And there are tons of guides and deities that are probably going to get in the way if you shouldn't be doing what you're doing. Now, of course, that isn't true for everyone and everything. Some things are more powerful, and that is why it's so important to protect yourself in the magical realm. But understand that as soon as you declare yourself a witch or a practitioner of any kind, you are shining your light in the magical realm. You are stepping in there, and it is much like a spider web. You know, as soon as the fly hits the web, the spider feels it regardless of where it is in the web, and it's going to come to it. The same can be said for all forces in the magical realm. So not casting spells isn't going to keep you safe. Casting spells for your safety is going to keep you safe. So don't let your fear get in the way of you manifesting your desires, and more importantly, of you practicing to protect yourself. Your power is your birthright, so don't be afraid to use it. Don't be afraid to play with it. It takes a little bit of time to figure out how all of this stuff works for your life specifically, and you're never going to get there if you don't play with it a little bit. It is a practice for a reason, because you are always learning, always growing, always expanding. So allow yourself to do so. Put aside your fear if you have any. Recalibrate those belief systems and allow yourself to really experience the magic that you have at your fingertips. I believe that's all I have for this one. The only other piece of advice I have is that if you are struggling to find rhymes, there are lots of websites that can help you find rhyming words. RhymeZone is a great one. Also, don't forget to check out a thesaurus, because sometimes you need a synonym for the word, and that's going to help you find a better rhyme to really get that flow down to make your spell more powerful. Again, spells don't have to rhyme, but it's more fun and easier to get into if you do. For any of you who enjoy rap, you know that feeling when they hit a really great verse and it just like sets you on fire, you're just like electric because of it. that's what you're aiming for with your spells. Now, if you can accomplish that without rhymes, more power to you, but recognize there's a lot of power in rhymes, so don't be afraid to tap into it. Alright, that's really all I have for this one. Thank you so much for joining me, and don't forget to like and subscribe so that I can help you keep your third eye in the sky. Stay blessed.